Hello, we want to talk to you about sleep today. Everybody knows that sleep is important, and especially at the moment. Um, I was going to ask you to start maybe and discuss with just a few of the things that people say to you, because you hear a lot of this,
Yeah.
about why they can't sleep and what sort of things they can be doing. Some of them are really obvious, but that doesn't matter because we've got to have the checklist there
Yeah.
ready. So what is it?
Uh, there's a lot of different reasons that people I have quite a lot of discussions with people, as you say, in the course of my work as well, as to why people can't sleep. And there are various reasons for that. Obviously, we're all different, but one of the common um, reasons is just a very stressed, busy lifestyle, and an inability to actually switch off, having anxious thoughts, panic, either before going to sleep. So the body's so wound up and tense that it just is hard for sleep to actually come. Um, it can be also a lot of people tend to maybe get to sleep and then they wake up in the middle of the night. And you know what it's like sometimes in those kind of early hours that you start thinking those thoughts that perhaps you'd rather leave aside and worrying about the future. And of course, then that begins to spiral and people begin to again feel anxious, and that prevents people from going to sleep. And also the very fact that people can't get to sleep, if they have a busy day the next day, or have plans that they want to fulfill, they then get more tense about that as well. So it's kind of like a bit of a spiral.
So
Um,
is it mainly anxiety, or are there other factors
it's
as well?
not only anxiety. I mean, that's a common reason, but there are some more kind of straightforward reasons, I suppose. Just like a lot of one thing that I encounter in as well is students, and a lot of students who are actually working busily, maybe before exams, etc.,
Late into the night.
late into the night. And I've particularly found this with there's Chinese students who seem to possibly they feel pressure to succeed and they drive themselves very hard. They also tend not to maybe do the things in their spare time that a lot of us do in our Western culture. Um, and they're very driven. They tend to be very driven, and they complain about not being able to get to sleep. And when I speak to them about why, and I give some possible. I ask questions as to um, are you working late into the night? Are you sitting at a computer or a laptop or looking at your mobile phone? And invariably they say yes, and that's it. That it's just they're actually stimulated by the what we now know is one of the issues, the blue light in their laptop or phones, and they just can't. They find it hard to switch off, because it stimulates the pineal gland in our brains and prevents us from easily getting to sleep. So one of the recommendations I make, therefore, is to actually maybe just put those things aside at least now before they go to bed,
Hmm.
so that it prevents them from not being able to get to sleep. So
You say that this is potentially at least different from some of the actions of more Western students, if you like. But aren't some of their things counterproductive to sleep as well sometimes?
oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
Some of the
obviously,
activities and drinking that goes
yeah,
on
yeah.
under normal circumstances, of
Yeah, I mean,
course.
obviously, anything I say there is a generalization. I'm not suggesting as well that students um,
They're all
in the
different.
Western
Yeah.
world, or of Western origin, don't do that as well. It just
That's
seems to
not
be.
really what I'm getting. I'm thinking about some of the
No, I was
activities.
going to come on to that as
Okay, go
well.
on.
Yeah, so yeah, there isn't so much a drinking culture, for example, amongst some of the overseas students in the same way as there is in this
Yeah.
country. And alcohol is might make us get to sleep more easily sometimes, but it doesn't actually lead to a good quality sleep. So ultimately, there is therefore a shortage of the really beneficial sleep that we need to help us to repair and just get ready for the next day. So that's very common as well. Another thing as well is just eating too late at night. I think again there is a tendency in our culture to eat our evening meals very late, compared to what might be ideal. So 7, 8 o'clock
And it's often the
sometimes.
main meal now, whereas it
It's,
used not to be when
yeah,
we were children. It was
yeah,
lunchtime that was the big meal.
yeah. That's it, absolutely. And again, that's because of our busy lifestyles, people working late, and then they maybe have some wind down time before they have their meal, and the digestion that's required for to break down that meal does take a lot of the body's energy. Digesting our food is one of the most energy requiring activities that we do. And when you do that late at night or relatively late at night, it prevents then the body from actually doing the other activities it needs to do, like healing and repairing. And also, it can, because you're not always burning off the energy sufficiently before you go to bed, because your metabolism slows down anyway, there is a tendency then for those extra calories to be stored as fat. So again, it's a bit of a vicious circle, really. So sleep can definitely, or lack of sleep, and the way we live, our lifestyles can really work against us quite a lot in that respect, and it can have far-reaching effects on things, which I think you wanted to come on to and comment on yourself.
Yes, I think sleep has been an issue for me for most of my adult life, and I'm always frustrated by these messages that come from well-meaning doctors and other people who say that you absolutely must get good sleep, otherwise you might end up with, I don't know, Alzheimer's. Immunity at the moment is a big one. You need it for to be as protected as you can be. It's all well and good if you're doing all the right things. You're not using the blue light at night, and you're not eating late, which I don't do. And I don't know, you're not drinking caffeine. I don't drink any coffee anymore. You're not drinking the wine that has this stimulating effect, and so on. You're doing all the right things, going to bed at a good time, and so on. And I can get to sleep. I don't always stay asleep, and I'm still not certain why this is. So there are a few things that I think are worth mentioning here, and some of these can also improve sleep. But equally, if sleep is not available to you for whatever reason, they can potentially help in those areas that cause the concern. Because like Graham said, if you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and realise this is the second time in a run, the third time, fourth time, however many times that you've done this, and you're probably not going to fall back to sleep, it becomes a bit of a concern, and then the mind starts worrying about it. So I have to say that one of the most significant things that I've ever learned is meditation. And it's certainly useful for reducing the anxiety anyway. There's no doubt about it. But it has other physiological effects, and there are lots of them, and it's really, really uplifting. It does seem to have a role to play in things like dementia and Alzheimer's. It does work on the brain. So that's already encouraging, I think, very encouraging for anybody who worries about that. But as I said before, at the moment, we're all focused, hopefully to some degree, on immunity and keeping ourselves as healthy as possible. And if you feel that you just can't sleep enough hours, then that might become a concern. However, I've got some really good news. I found I already knew that it was very useful for immunity in a general sense, but I think you found it actually. I think you did a study involving 94 women. It was in America, and they were introducing meditation to these women for all sorts of different reasons, to measure different things, in general well-being and all sorts of other things that they wanted to address. But in particular, they found that 30 of them who were experienced meditators, the rest were new to it, the 30 experienced meditators had shifts in their genes that related to fighting viruses. So they were fighting viral infections more successfully than control groups. And that's very exciting, I think, especially at the moment. So it's something to do while you can't sleep. I know there are people who suggest you should get up and walk around, and if that works for you, that's fine too. It seems that we did interrupt our sleep in historical times. It was normal. We had longer to be in bed because we were there all the time. It was dark, and we used to get up and sometimes go and visit the neighbours in the night, and then go back to bed and have part two. That is not my favourite thing, especially because most of the year the house is quite cold and I don't particularly want to be getting up. So what I personally do is I have trained this, and I keep you only practice meditation. You don't do it. You don't become particularly expert at it. You become experienced, not expert. I've trained my meditation practice so that when I'm in bed and I wake up, and especially if I'm feeling a little bit let's say anxious, which happens less now, thankfully, because of this, I think. I meditate, and sometimes for a few hours, which I wouldn't have been able to do without the training. That's kind of the catch. You need to actually put in the practice first, otherwise it's a bit like having to run to catch all the way into town to catch a train and calling that your running practice. That's not the best time to do it. So I strongly recommend meditation, but also the other thing I would really that's made a difference to me quite recently. I noticed I am sleeping better and have been doing for a few months now on the whole, and that is to eat lighter food at night in particular, and to not eat it too late, which is what you've already touched upon. That seems to make a huge difference. I'm actually able to stay asleep for a bit longer now, and hopefully I will keep adding to that. That's certainly what I aim to do. The other thing about doing the meditation and also eating food that supports your body, both of those together help with you functioning well the next day. Focus, that's quite important. I don't really suffer from brain fog and diminished ability to function cognitively, which I'm very pleased about. I do get tired. You can't stop getting tired if you've not slept. That's just the way it is. And I have been known to have naps in the afternoon, which is quite useful now and then. But on the whole, I've figured out ways of managing this, and overall I would like to overcome it and sleep like normal people sleep. But at the moment, that's not the way it is, and hasn't been for most of my adult life. Is there anything we've missed?
No, I think
we
that's
mention caffeine. I think that's
yeah, you did
one.
mention
Okay.
that's one thing I omitted earlier. So yeah, I mean we all know about caffeine being a stimulant, and again, it's not a good idea to drink coffee to excess.
But for some people, and because it really seems to vary in people, you're fine
Yeah.
with coffee. I'm
Yeah.
not, and it seems that some people, even if they drink it in the morning, there are still traces of it in their body by the time they go to bed that can be having an effect on them. So if you kind of have to go with what you're given and make the most of it, and that meant for me giving up caffeine.
Yeah, we all react individually differently, and we process things differently. What's good for one person is not good for another, but generally speaking, it's probably not a good idea to drink coffee, certainly late into the evening, and probably after midday, generally speaking. So so I think that covers it today.
Thank you.
Thank you.